Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah, and this is Love at First Fright. Hello, everyone. You're probably asking yourself, what the heck? What the hey? What's going on? Normally, they say, hi, this is Curtis, and this is Hannah, and this is Love at First Fright, but they skip the Curtis part. And that is because I'm flying solo today. But fear not. This is a one-off, Hannah-only special, direct for your enjoyment from the depths of my brain. The reason that we are doing it this way this week is because I actually got a piece of fan mail from a person, a listener called Kara Socks, who said, "Dear Hannah, why don't you do the podcast on your own? ? You're so funny and smart, and you have really good opinions on things. And also, you're sexy. Men who need them? ? Love, Kara Socks." No, the real reason is that, honestly, real life happened. Curtis and I have both had really crazy schedules recently, and we weren't able to find a time to sit down and watch the movie together and record together and still have time to edit. And so while he is at work today, I am being left alone in the driver's seat against all better judgment. So we're just doing something a little bit different today. Because I'm alone, I did not end up watching the movie that we were going to this week. We will revisit that in our next regularly scheduled episode. But I thought it might be kind of fun just to do a weird little something. Curtis and I have actually talked previously about occasionally doing episodes of the podcast in a different format. Maybe doing things like top fives or, certain movie recommendations for a vibe or, best ofs, that kind of thing, brackets even. So I'm considering this a little experiment. Today I am going to be sharing a little list that I created in the dead of night last night after having the idea to do this episode. And I hope that you all just come along on the ride with me. It might get a little funky because I don't have anybody to rein me in, and I already feel sort of like a maniac because I am speaking to no one in an empty room, just sort of making eye contact with our tortoise in her enclosure. So anyway, I thought that with this opportunity to speak to you one-on-one, the perfect thing to dive into would be a subject that weighs heavily on my heart. It's something that's very important to me. And I know that it's top of mind for all Americans, right? This is critical to the culture. And that topic is, what horror movies would unironically make a really good musical on Broadway? I know, totally. This is something I've thought about for a long time because many years ago I saw one of the local production companies. Unfortunately, I can't remember who it was now. I wish I could so I could shout them out. But they did The Evil Dead, the musical. This is something that's been going on for a while, and different companies pop up and do Evil Dead. And I sat in the splatter zone where they have all the blood effects and all that stuff. And it was such a fun time, and it really kind of sparked my interest in, why don't we do this? There's some horror or horror adjacent musicals out there. Things like, Sweeney Todd come to mind, or The Little Shop of Horrors. So it's not unheard of, but what most of them have in common is there's kind of this, maybe a little bit of silliness or camp to them, or it feels more like a gothic story. So it's a bit more, maybe reserved would be the right word. It's not, the crazy heart-thumping thriller that a lot of us love in a horror movie. So I specifically created a list of horror movies that I think could genuinely be scary, but also be commercially successful as a musical. My credentials for this are that I own a microphone and I have Audacity installed on my computer, and I pay for a subscription to host a podcast somewhere. Those are my credentials. I also had a thriving career in local community theater as a middle schooler. So the first one that I want to talk about, this one is really this is the blueprint, because I think it could so perfectly be translated. I think that the original Halloween would absolutely rip ass as a musical. When I think of Halloween, of course, I'm talking about the 1978 John Carpenter, Deborah Hill Halloween. We did it on the podcast, talking about Laurie Strode and her, fight for survival against Michael Myers, who is out on Halloween night, having escaped from a psychiatric facility, returning to his hometown and killing babysitters and innocent bystanders. The reason that I think this would actually translate really well as a musical is, first off, the music and the soundtrack of Halloween is already instrumental in the story. While it isn't a musical in its current sense, I kind of think of John Carpenter's soundtrack, the infamous do 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 do. That is so iconic. It immediately activates everyone. We all know what it's from, even if you're not a horror movie fan. And that music, in many ways, is kind of its own character in the movie. The movie would not be the same without that iconic theme song. And with that in mind, I think that there was a lot of opportunity there to incorporate that theme as an ongoing sort of reprise or a motif throughout the musical, and it would be so chilling. I honestly think it could be really good. I also think this could work because it is a semi-contained horror story. We don't have to do anything too crazy in terms of big practical effects. It's not like we need a big spaceship or something like that. It's pretty realistic to put on. And I just want to pitch something for you. This is my idea. This is my concept. TM. But also, if you want to do this, hit me up, because I would work on it with you. I see an introduction. The curtain opens. Stage left, we have Dr. Loomis and that nurse, whose name I don't remember, from the beginning of the movie, driving in a car. They're both just sitting in chairs and, pantomiming towards the audience like we're all familiar with. And they have that conversation that they do in the movie where, the nurse is sort of questioning, oh, why do we have to do this in the middle of the night? Why are we treating this patient so harshly? Why is there all these, extra security measures around him? Isn't he just a person like everybody else? And then Dr. Loomis gets to sing a rousing number that introduces Michael Myers to the audience called The Devil's Eyes. Do 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 do. I don't have all the lyrics yet. I also won't sit here and make you listen to a one-man show that is unhinged even by my standards, but I think it could be really good. He goes over the story of Michael Myers, maybe even stage right. We have a little spotlight moment, and we have a child actor that's sort of acting out some of the Michael moments. We go through his growth from a small child, who killed his sister, up to the man that he is today, to really prepare the audience for what they're about to see. And then, of course, have the terrifying moment when the car crashes and we realize all of the patients have gotten out of the facility, and Dr. Loomis immediately knows. He knows that Michael Myers is out and that people are going to die. I think that Dr. Loomis is honestly already written like a theatrical character. That's not to say that, a character like that can't and doesn't exist in film, but he really is, I think, the kind of harbinger archetype that we see over and over again in horror movies translates so well to the stage because they are the driving force. They're kind of a pseudo narrator. They are telling the audience what we need to know. That way we can react appropriately in horror and shock and fear when the people around the harbinger don't react appropriately. We know that they're in danger and we're helpless to do anything about it because they haven't accepted that as a reality yet. I think it could be so good. Am I crazy? I mean, yes, but am I? I don't think so. I think it could be good. Some other like numbers I could see happening. I think we definitely need to have kind of a cutesy, upbeat, more fun number with Laurie Strode and her two little friends, you know, just to get across that like, hey, these are teenage girls, and we can get some characterization of Laurie Strode as more of the bookish type compared to her friends who are a bit more outgoing and less interested in school, more interested in boys, for example. And I think that Laurie Strode as our final girl, I can also imagine a really moving kind of power ballad towards the climax of the movie when she is really in the throes of this fight for survival, when she is being chased by Michael Myers, about how she's so afraid, but she has these two, you know, children that she's responsible for as a babysitter that she has to, you know, protect. And I think it would be really interesting and intriguing to get the inside perspective of the final girl in the moment, and not just seeing their fear through, you know, their screams and reactions, but also hearing the emotions that they're going through and their thought process and what survival means to them. I think it could actually be really good. Now, here's one take. Some people might say, well, what about a Michael Myers number? What about a moment when Michael gets a song? No, this is where I'm going to lay my foot down. That was me laying it down. It would completely break the character and the immersion if Michael had a number. If anything, I could see an interpretation maybe that motif of the do 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 do, if that's kind of Michael's voice in a way, you know, that sort of coming up anytime he's in his stalker mode, or when he's just, you know, just behind a character and they don't know that he's there. I think that's his voice. I don't think that he needs to sing, because Michael Myers as a character doesn't speak. He's never done that. That's not part of his character. That's not part of who he is. He's this silent, faceless, always moving forward, freaking skyscraper of a man who is actually just pure evil incarnate, you know? I think that by giving him a song, it would negatively impact the performance, and I think it would take away some of the tension and the mystery around the character. But that's just me. I'm willing to hear arguments. If we think maybe Michael does need a song, maybe Child Michael could have a song. I don't know. I'm willing to hear people out, but I feel pretty strongly that it would be a mistake. I also think, I kind of was just referencing it and it reminded me again, I think that something fun about maybe the set creation of a musical version of this could be having like different levels to the set, so that we could kind of have this fun thing where Michael is often like kind of almost like a Where's Waldo thing, where he's always on the stage when other characters are taking the focus, but he's not right there with them. You know, he's just sort of lingering in the background. And it would also keep the audience on their toes of like, where is he? I know he's watching this. I think it could be so fun. Okay, that's Halloween. That is my main suggestion. This is the one I've thought the most about and genuinely think would be so good. And you know what? Maybe I will just take it upon myself. I'm happy to get sued by the Carpenter estate or whoever owns Halloween these days. I'm actually not sure. I think it could be good. And I think people would see it. I think people would turn up. But I want to talk about the other one that I thought of. So last night when I was laying in bed thinking about these musicals, I had an idea. I haven't quite thought this one through to the same extent, I will readily admit. And I think there may be some challenges with adapting it, but I think it could be really fun. And that would be the first Saw movie. Just the first Saw movie. I don't think we can get away with any of the other Saw movies. I think it would be insane and impossible and bad, probably. But the first Saw movie, because it is so, it's a tighter narrative, and also it's very location heavy. Like there's really just a couple of areas that the movie takes place in. It's fairly limited in its scope. My pitch would be that a performance of Saw the musical would be done in the round. If you're not a theater person, that just means that the stage is like the center of the room and the chairs are on all sides of the performers in like a big circle. The reason I think this is because a huge part of Saw is at least the first Saw, is the sense of isolation and being trapped. They're literally chained by the ankle in this bathroom. They don't know where they are. And I think having that sense of being surveilled, where we are flies on the wall watching these people in this desperate situation, would really add to the experience and to the immersion of it. And it would also just sell the idea that they truly are trapped. You know, yes, we know we can turn off our brain. The actors can stand up and leave anytime. But in this environment where they're surrounded on all sides, there's no backstage, quote unquote, you know? And I think that could be really effective for a musical. Now, the biggest challenge, I think, with a Saw musical adaptation is that, first off, with the way that it's written, it often bounces through time. So we go from scenes in the bathroom to, the other game with like Gordon's family in their home, things with the detective and like his mission to, bring Jigsaw to justice and his detective work, the surveillance that he's doing, all of the, putting together of clues that he's going through. So my thought would be that you still do it all in the round, but you can just periodically take us away from those characters in the bathroom, do a little scene change, and give us some lore dump about other things going on. Another thought I had was it might be interesting, at least for Detective Tapp, it might be interesting to have him in the audience. So like he just kind of like stands up and gets spotlighted when he has something to bring to the table. That way we don't have to break, the sanctity of the bathroom. We just want to keep them there the whole time. So I think that could also work and be interesting. But some song ideas. So of course, I think probably the iconic number would be them listening to their tape and it being in that sort of creepy Jigsaw voice. That would, to me, would be the most exciting number, I think. I can definitely see you would have to have a really good Jigsaw. You would just simply have to. And also, big spoilers for the end of Saw 1, if you haven't seen it before or didn't listen to our episode on it. At the very end, Jigsaw reveals that he has actually been in the bathroom with them the whole time and he was just laying on the floor, and then he, stands up and like removes his gunshot wound, like special effects prosthetic and does his whole game over. It might be considered like psychological torture for whatever poor actor has to do that, physical and psychological torture. But if we could actually have a person laying on the ground, how fucking cool would that be to actually just have them laying there and then stand up and do that reveal? Like it would be mind-blowing. It would be mind-blowing. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe Saw is not meant to be a musical. Maybe it's just meant to be a play. No, you can definitely put some songs in there. I think we can have songs about the game itself. We can have songs from the perspectives of the different characters, how Gordon is feeling, how Adam is feeling, how Detective Tapp is feeling. We could also, just have some like interesting, like turn some of the conversations between Gordon and Adam into songs. I would think that this wouldn't necessarily be like a big, dancing and all of that stuff sort of musical. I think it would be more almost kind of something like Les Mis. Like if you saw how a lot of the conversations that would normally just be talking were done in song with like back and forth between the two characters, and it was melodic, but it wasn't like a big over the top musical number. I think that's how it would have to be. I think that the music would just kind of be a driving force. And again, kind of similarly to Halloween, Saw also has a really freaking iconic theme song. And I think it would be amazing to have that dun dun dun, dun dun dun, dun 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 dun, as everyone is putting everything together. I mean, how hype would you be if you were in the audience? I'd be losing my mind. I'd be standing up and throwing roses, personally. That's just me, but I would be. And another thing that I had an idea for that I think would be fun is if maybe they used like non-traditional items to create music. So rather than it just being like an orchestra or, traditional things like that, using sound effects of like their chains or like the bathroom tile or the click of the cassette tape player or the rewinding of a cassette tape, things like that to create musicality, I think would actually be really cool. And it would also kind of allow the whatever characters are being spotlighted on the stage to be involved in the creation of music and that be part of the performance. One, I just love incorporation of non-traditional like sounds and materials in music. I think it's really fun. But I think especially for something like Saw, where there's kind of this underlying, kind of grungy, like he's made all of these things himself, tinkering in his weird little workshop. I think it would actually really reinforce the concept and the character to incorporate those things as sounds and almost even use it as like a metronome at some parts or just these interesting little effects that can be layered on top of each other. I would think that would be really cool, personally. I didn't necessarily have quite as much to say about Saw, I realize, but I think that I have saved my best pitch for last. So Sharks, this is what I've got for you. My final idea, and this is my no budget, no limitations dream musical, okay? Because I think this would be the hardest to pull off, but I think it would be the coolest if possible. And that would be a musical rendition of Nightmare on Elm Street. I will wait for the applause to stop. I know, it's brilliant. Again, I fully understand and recognize that this would be really hard to pull off because Freddy is such an animated character and there's a lot of special effects that happen in the movie, both practically and otherwise, that would be really difficult to pull off on stage. It would also, we do a lot of like messing with perspective. Sometimes we're in a dream, sometimes we're in real life. Things, appear and disappear. So I fully recognize that this would be a huge undertaking and may actually just be impossible. But how cool would it be? I mean, is there anything cooler than a horror villain that literally haunts you in your dreams and kills you and things that happen in the dream happen in real life? I think it's so cool. I also have so many ideas for different musical numbers because here's the thing. Unlike some of the other major horror villains, we have a lot of strong silent types in the horror genre. Freddy he's a funny guy. He's practically a stand-up comedian. He's always got shit to say. And he's always whipping out his funny little one-liners and his smart little comebacks. And I think having a horror villain that could genuinely have a voice in the musical would be so fun. I think this one would be the most entertaining to watch. And it probably wouldn't be as scary as it would be just truly fun and weird and silly. And that is so exciting to me as a concept. And I think it would be for a lot of people. But yeah, I love the idea of having a really strong Freddy, someone with a real handle on humor, a lot of theatricality, who can command everyone's attention. I mean, talk about like a dream role for somebody, honestly. It would be so cool. And it would work unlike how I don't think Halloween would work in that way. But, some of the things I think could be helpful is the use of lighting in kind of differentiating between the real life and the dream world. I think there's a lot of kind of like mirror images of each other throughout Nightmare on Elm Street, where, for example, like Nancy might be in her bedroom, but you don't really know, is it her real life bedroom or her dream bedroom? So I think that there could be an opportunity to use like a red tinged light or something like that, or even like maybe low level of like fog machine or something. I think there can be some visual indicators without having to create whole separate sets that could be really compelling. Also, you could use musicality. Something that could be kind of interesting is maybe if they only sing in their dreams and then scenes that are happening in real life are all dialogue. Though I think if we did that, we might miss out on some important numbers with other characters like Nancy's dad, who's the local police officer on the case, some of Nancy's inner world, some of the familial conflict that she has with her family. All of those I think could be interesting numbers. So we might miss out on that. I just like the idea of it adding to kind of the oddness and the sort of surrealism of the dream world by having them communicate it's kind of meta in a way, having them only communicate through song in the dream. Some interesting numbers I think we could have. I do think that Freddie's kind of big introduction, which this isn't his first time that we see him in the movie, but it's when we really get to like spend some more time in depth with him for the first time, is that first night when Tina has everybody over. She's got Nancy and the boys, and they're sleeping over because she's been freaked out by the dream she's having. And then she has that dream where she, walks out of her house because she hears a noise. And then there's the whole chase down the alleyway and all that stuff. I think that should be Freddie's big moment where he sings for the first time. And I'm almost imagining, maybe this is making it like too silly where it kind of undercuts the tension. I don't know. But I think it would be fun if that song almost had kind of like an Oogie Boogie vibe to it from The Nightmare Before Christmas, where it's just the villain intro song of like, hey, this is what I'm about, and this is what I want, this is who I am, this, strap the fuck in, because this is what we're going to be dealing with for the next 90 minutes. Or probably longer in a musical. I also think that A Nightmare on Elm Street musical could really benefit from borrowing, from that concept of the splatter zone from when I went and saw the Evil Dead musical. I think that because it would be a lot more fun and over the top, it would be really cool to have a splatter zone, not even just for blood, but also kind of one of those like, what do they call that? Like the 4D theaters that they have sometimes in like theme parks where they do like smells and wind and stuff. That could be kind of cool too. If there was, like in the scenes where they're going through the boiler room and stuff like that, having, steam hissing at the audience so that they really feel like they're in there with Nancy. I also think that we could have some really fun numbers. Well, not really fun, honestly, kind of sad of Nancy and her mom. The mom is such a tragic character. She's clearly dealing with alcoholism. Her relationship with her husband is failing. She's harboring this huge secret from when she was younger that she clearly has complex feelings about. On one hand, she is proud of what she did and she stands by it. But on the other hand, she is ashamed of it because she killed someone. But I think her inner world could be really, really interesting to explore in a musical. A musical would give her some time to breathe and to hear more, to follow her specifically rather than only seeing her through Nancy's eyes, because Nancy, of course, is our final girl. But I think that the biggest number in a production of The Nightmare on Elm Street or Nightmare on Elm Street would have to be the big final chase, the cat and mouse game, when Nancy lures Freddie and pulls him out of the dream and into the real world. And she's rigged up all these traps across the house. She's got fucking gunpowder going off and tripwire and all this stuff. Again, it would be so hard to do this on stage. It would be so difficult. It would be so expensive and just unwieldy. But how cool would it be to have that kind of chase throughout the set where these special effects are going off and we're, really seeing that we have that satisfaction of Nancy really fighting back and getting the upper hand on this villain that we've really grown to respect and fear, because he's always has the upper hand. He's killed so many characters we like. The other part of this that I think would be really fun is if the weird is just kind of the weird 80s synth music. I think really leaning into the period of time when this movie was made. And, a lot of the music in the film is a lot of these like, wow, and like freaky, like Twilight Zone sound effects. Lean into that shit. make it weird, you know? I think this would be the campiest of the ones I've presented, and so you might as well just have fun with it, you know? There's nothing wrong with getting a little silly and campy, but I personally think a Nightmare on Elm Street production would be a dream to work on. You have so many good costuming opportunities, powerful acting, some powerful songs, powerful music, powerful set design. Everybody would really have to come together. The music, the direction, like there's so many places for everybody to shine. I think it would honestly be like a dream project for a lot of people if it was doable. And maybe I would have to cut out some of my wish list items, but how freaking cool would it be? Okay, so those were the 3 that I had prepared. I did also want to briefly shout out, because I kind of had an idea while I've been talking, that maybe something like Pearl could be a cool musical, because Pearl already kind of felt like people were about to burst into song at any moment, but maybe that's a little too on the nose. I don't know. Just throwing that out there as another option. Yeah, so this was my list of the top 3 horror movies that I would turn into musicals that I unironically think would actually be good. Like, could become famous and get, like, what do musicals get again? Tonys. Could get like Tonys and stuff. Clearly I'm an expert. I know that someone with a musical theater background is like, this fucking idiot over here. And I do apologize. But also, this is my show. If you want to say how stupid I am, get your own podcast. Actually, please don't. That would really hurt my feelings if someone made a podcast because they were so outraged at my incompetence. That would be a real heartbreaker right there. Yes. So I want to thank you all for sticking with me. I know this episode is a bit shorter than we usually do, but again, with it being just me today and kind of, you know, just pitching a different concept of another format we might try out from time to time, didn't want to keep you all afternoon or evening or morning whenever you are listening to this. Yeah, but let me know what you thought about this. If a situation like this comes up again, is this a good solution? Would you like having these kind of strange filler episodes that are a bit different, or would you just prefer a reschedule or, double episodes next time? So let me know what you like. I really enjoyed doing this, even though, again, I do feel kind of crazy talking to no one, but it was fun. But yeah, love to just sort of talk and no one challenges me, and that's great. Other than that, of course, continue to send us your movie suggestions. Like I said, we will be getting back onto our regular schedule. So when we see you next, we're going to have a regular movie that we're going to be doing together, and keep them coming. We have a few weeks scheduled out or several weeks of episodes scheduled out, but we are also looking for, more movies. But yeah, what do you like? What kinds of movies are you guys into right now? With that said, if you have any feedback for us, you can still find us on social media. It's at First Fright Pod on Instagram and X. We also have a Facebook page called Love at First Fright, or of course you can send us an email. It's firstfrightpod@gmail.com. That's a great place to send us suggestions or your feedback, or talk to us. You might find us out in the wild somewhere. We're around. I think that's all I've got. This is like kind of, I'm starting to feel the awkwardness now, and it's getting a little crushing. I may have to drink a tall glass of wine before I edit this and have to listen to just myself, talking to just myself, editing just myself by myself, so to speak. But thanks for sticking with me, I guess. You're a real pal for coming all the way to the end here. Honestly, what a trooper. Give yourself a round of applause. I never get to say this part. I'm just realizing now. Curtis always does this part. So I gotta make it good. All right. Me. Wait, fuck, what does he say?
Bruh.
No. Oh, yeah, I know what he says. I'm a professional. He says, and as always, scare well and see you next time. Bye. crash the fuck out. I'm being perceived. Why am I being so perceived now?